Let's get into a review of the menu.
Well, sometimes that is better.
Hey everybody, what's up? Killjoy Jake here, and instead of having friends, I have horror movies. Today's main course is The Menu, a brand new crazy film starring Ralph Fiennes, Anya Taylor-Joy, and the very underrated Nicholas Hoult. We're gonna get into a review of this in just a second, but if you guys can like this video and subscribe first, that would make old Jakey here pretty happy. Okay, so getting into a little non-spoiler review just real quick, I really enjoyed parts of this movie. I think that the performances are great across the board from just about everybody, especially Anya Taylor-Joy, Ralph Fiennes, Nicholas Hoult, like I was talking about. That's like your main trio of characters. They are all really good in this movie. But the dish feels a little undercooked by the time it gets to the table. Should I stop with the food puns or should I keep going? Because I think I should keep going. This whole movie takes place in one room for the most part, and I think that's pretty cool that it kept my attention this whole time. Like, there's enough interesting things happening in just this one room that I was really interested the entire time. This was a fun movie to watch, but it's kind of wrapped in a bunch of unnecessary, well, BS that just doesn't really work for me. The humor and one kill in specific really does work for me, but then there's this commentary aspect of it that I feel like doesn't work because they don't deliver on certain things, which I can't really talk about in a non-spoiler part of this video. Not only that, but I just feel like there was so many opportunities to do something scary with like a killer chef, and they never really go through with that. This is essentially Gordon Ramsay, the horror movie, and they don't do that much with that specific concept. Like, I'm watching this the whole time and I'm like, this could be something really fucking scary, but instead they kind of just play into Gordon Ramsay tropes about like him yelling at people while they're cooking. Like, I feel like they could have done way more than that personally. I wasn't big on the menu, but I do feel like it had some really cool things to offer and talk about, because I would love a movie like this to be successful in the future though. We'll talk about why now in the spoiler part of the video. Spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen the movie yet, don't watch any further, or so help me, I will karate chop you right in the throat. Okay, I probably won't do that, but please don't watch the rest of the video until you have seen the menu, or do and get it spoiled for yourself. You know what? Honestly, it's out of my control at this point. The menu is a messier entree than, well, the mess itself, which was a dish in this movie, and someone died making it in the process, because apparently that was necessary. Speaking of that scene, there was a lot of moments in this movie that were really effective for me. That was really visceral and really fucked up when we got to see that. That really got a shock out of me, probably the biggest moment in the whole movie, which is not good because the climax should be your biggest moment. If something else is kind of stealing that spotlight, that's not very good. And that's probably the worst part of this movie, is the climax, which is lackluster to say the least. This whole movie was building up to a mass where the people that originally came onto it weren't like down for it, but this guy convinced them with like literally one speech. What? Like, I'm sorry, I could not believe that. I get like these people's lives are like in shambles for the most part, but it doesn't seem like it's that bad. It seems like stuff that they could have crawled their way out of eventually. And Ralph Fiennes' character doesn't really do the best job at convincing them to all kill themselves. Like, it's not like the most convincing speech. He has like one little line of dialogue, not a line, that's not fair. He talks a little more about it, like, hey, come on, your guys' lives are in shambles, let's just do this. That's about all he does, and that convinces them to yeah, okay, yeah, let's just do this. Let's end our lives. What? No, that would take so much more than that, I think. And they kind of just let Anya Taylor-Joy go, like, this whole time he's been trying to convince her to like, oh, come on, I need to know what your tastes are so I can make certain stuff for you. This evening was designed perfectly to have this night happen, whatever. It just didn't make, and the whole ending just fell apart in my opinion. There's also just like a lot of plot holes and inconsistencies and things that just simply serve no purpose that are in this movie and have a heavy focus on them. The biggest one, which is, I don't know what happened here. Maybe there's some reshoots and they kind of forgot about some stuff they set up, but they literally announced to all of the male characters at one point, hey, we're going to hunt you down, and if we find you, we're going to kill you. They then let everyone run out, and then like after 45 seconds, all the chefs go and try to find them in the woods, and they kind of just like tackle them to the ground and bring them back. Nobody dies in that whole sequence. Like, I don't know what happened there. They literally announced, like, maybe they were just hoping the audience would forget about that conversation. I don't know. That was really bizarre to me. Like, that whole sequence amounts to nothing. That was literally just filler to make this movie a little longer. I don't understand what the purpose of that scene was. Maybe I missed it, but there was zero purpose to that entire sequence. The one thing that does really work about this movie, though, is its quirky humor. It'll keep cutting to, like, certain dishes and stuff, and it'll be, like, and telling you, like, all the ingredients about it, and it'll even show you, like, the really stupid ones. There's one point in the movie where Nicholas Holt's character gets to make a dish for the chef, and it's like just fucking terrible. It's undercooked, and it's like making fun of it as it's reading the dish. And that's pretty funny. I liked that. That was hilarious. It was also totally a play on all those Gordon Ramsay videos you've probably seen on YouTube. You get to see Ralph Fiennes just shitting on him as he's like cooking and sweating as fast as he possibly can. You know, it's pretty funny. I liked that. But that was another missed opportunity. This movie was totally Gordon Ramsay, the horror movie, and that was the only moment of this entire film where I feel like they played into that. Literally just off the top of my head, a few things you could have done to make it scarier or grosser or just something to add a little more flavor to this very undercooked dish is bring out maybe a dish that's just disgusting, undercooked, this gross meat. Like they even introduced this thing early on where they say that if we let this meat stand for like another day, it'll have this horrible bacteria in it that will actually kill somebody. So what if they served that to the food critic at one point and that's how she died? I would have loved for this movie to have been like, oh, he's gonna kill all these people in very creative ways that is kind of like John Kramer-esque, you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna kill these people in poetic ways due to some of their shortcomings as a human being. Just like John Kramer from Saw. This could have been the chef version of John Kramer, and they kind of got into that a little bit, but they kind of lose it then again, too. There's a lot of ideas in this movie that just fall flat. None of them feel actualized. Another thing they could have done is make this a cannibal movie. I mean, they could have just had everyone die in this dining room. They couldn't leave because maybe everyone had guns or something, and like they were gonna kill all of them in creative ways, and then we're gonna use your meat to serve for the next course. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many more crazy angles they could have taken, and they just didn't. But the biggest thing that doesn't work for me about this movie is the commentary itself, which I think is trying to comment on like A24 movies or elevated horror, for lack of a better term. Unfortunately, that's what that subgenre is called. I fucking hate it. It's elitist, and it kind of sucks balls. But if you say that, everyone knows exactly what you're talking about. So elevated horror, I guess. Ugh. In particular, I feel like this movie is trying to make fun of Midsommar specifically. Like, there are so many little moments that are super similar to that. And I feel like what it's trying to make fun of is how some of the scares in that movie specifically can come off as silly. Now, here's how this movie tries to comment on that. It'll set scares up the same way that like Midsommar or like The Witch or The Lighthouse, like any of those movies from like A24, Neon, you know, those kind of movies. It sets up scares like that are going to be this crazy, weird psychological thing between two characters, but then it doesn't actually give you the punch. Like, there's this whole sequence towards the end of the film where you're expecting it to get really fucking crazy. Anya Taylor-Joy orders a cheeseburger. Like, that is such a middle finger to a chef. It's like, I want a cheeseburger, you know, give that to me. And she's totally playing into his emotions here, but it doesn't go anywhere. It serves no purpose to the plot. She orders this cheeseburger and the guy like passionately makes this really well-made cheeseburger. It's simple but effective and it looks delicious. My mouth was watering, honestly, when I saw it last night. But then he kind of just serves her a cheeseburger and she's like, you know, think my eyes were a little bigger than my stomach. Let's get this puppy to go. She gets it to go all boxed up and everything, and she leaves. That's the climax of this movie. I don't think I've ever seen a more boring climax to any movie ever. I was so unbelievably disappointed. And I think the point that it was trying to say was like, this is how A24 movies like to set up scares, but they didn't get it right. A24 movies will set up scares like that in a very weird and quirky way, but then it always ends in some kind of disastrous thing happening, which is why they're so effective. It's the blind side. It's like, oh, hey, we're gonna go do this very fun thing, and then suddenly we're watching two old people kill themselves on the top of a mountain. That's how Midsommar tries to scare you, and instead of effectively having a commentary on why that sucks from a different angle and poking some fun at it, this movie just actually missed the point of all of those other movies, I think. The one thing that does kind of work for me, though, is that there is this one line of dialogue from Anya Taylor-Joy where she specifically says something like, hey, you're making all this fancy food, but I'm not full. There's no substance. It's all smoke and mirrors, but I'm not actually full. And that's kind of like the whole commentary behind this. That part of it, okay, I'm like, hey, that works for me, but like the rest of it doesn't. And I think if they would have actually packed some scares in here, which they really only do once or twice in this entire movie, it would have been way more effective. This movie is like if you take Scream from 1996, which is a slasher movie, but it's also making fun of slasher movies. But what if you took the slasher element out of that? What would that movie look like? Would it be as effective? Probably not. It's like compiling just all of the scenes from Scream 1996 where they're commenting thing on slasher movies and being like, if you do this, you're gonna die. You have sex, you're done for. If you drink beer, you're gonna die. You know, just the whole Randy speech like that. But then nothing actually happens to the characters. The reason that commentary is effective is because they also get introduced into a situation very similar to Halloween or any of the other slasher movies that they reference in that movie, but then they're still not as successful. We still see characters die even with all of that information. This movie is essentially just the characters saying like, hey, A24 does this to scare you, and we know that. And we're not gonna do anything about it. It just would have been cool to see each individual character actually go through parts of that like that, instead of willingly just being like, you know what, let's just end it. Okay, cool. Having all the characters wanting to die totally takes the tension out of this and makes it really no fun at all towards the end. Although there was a lot of things in the menu that didn't really work for me, it was really nice to see Anya Taylor-Joy, Ralph Fiennes, and Nicholas Hoult all in a movie together. All people I really love and respect as actors, and it was really cool to see them all together in a movie. It was kind of weird. I'm gonna give the menu a 5 out of 10, which is probably a little generous, but like I said, there was some things about this movie I liked, and I think this movie had potential to be something good, but it didn't quite reach that status. What did you guys think about the menu, though? Leave me something about it in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching this new review video on the menu. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more horror reviews in the future. Also, November is the least spookiest month, which typically means Jake doesn't do all that well this time of year. So if you want to help Jake out, make sure to support me on Patreon or become a channel member by clicking that join button on my page. Thank you guys so much again for watching, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.